All the knowledge is within you. If you only can get light there, you can see all that knowledge is within you. You don't have to go anywhere for your knowledge. It's all inside. Everything is built in. You are built in so beautifully to become your spirit that I don't have to do much about it. It just works out. Only thing is that one has to know what we should expect to be the spirit. What should be our... The other day I told you about the left side, about the past, about the subconscious, about the collective subconscious and the problems of the subconscious and the conditionings we get from material things, from matter. Matter is always trying to overpower the spirit. And this matter is overpowering us because we come from matter to begin with. But how does the spirit come out of it? What happens that we become the spirit? People have talked about self-realization. So many people have talked about second birth. Everyone has said that you have to be... Alright, now the second side, on the right hand side, is the power by which we act. First we desire and then we act. Now this power, right side power, is expressed within us as right sympathetic nervous system. Science has come from the same. Science is in the gross, these are all subtle things that are within us. Now this right side power, which exists within us, gives us the power for our mental and physical capacity to act. Now this action takes place when we desire something, we want to implement that desire, then we go into action. The human mind has a speciality to go to extremes. Supposing I tell somebody, now you have to meditate. They'll meditate for 5 hours. There is no need to meditate for 5 hours or anything. But if you tell them that you have to stand on your head, they'll do it for 10 hours. So there is no need to go to extremes. We have to be just in the center, be kind to our body, be kind to ourselves. There's nothing to be frantic about. There's nothing to be so much exasperated about it. It's just very simple thing that has to happen. For example, think of a seed which is sown in a very loud music, or say a place where everybody is rushing, shouting, screaming. What will happen? That seed will never sprout. If it is in a peaceful place, is a properly placed one, or not in a tilted pot, then it will definitely develop into a beautiful tree or a beautiful shrub, whatever it has to develop into. In the same way, if we are too much on the extremes, we go to the left. Now this action within us acts for our mental and physical capacities on the right hand side. Like we think of the future. Now we're planning, we start. It's planning. Now we must do this tomorrow or day after tomorrow. We have to do it, and we start sitting. Now I'll go there and I'll find this, and then I'll take a ticket, and then I'll go there. I mean, our mind is working very dangerously placed when we start looking for the future. And the future seeing is a imaginary stuff. It's absolutely imaginary. Because what you think of the future doesn't exist. What exists is the present. You have to be in the present. So one has to understand that in the futuristic life when we live, when we plan too much for the future, actually what we are doing, we are living in an imaginary world. We have many stories of people who lived in imaginary worlds and how they found that everything was destroyed. And there are people who work it out through their physical efforts, and when they go into their physical efforts, they create another problem for them because they just become physically oriented people. And if you are just physically oriented, the spirit gets angry. So the right side movement is for the people who are very meticulous. You see what you call the people who are very particular about the time, and who are very firm about things, who are very dry people, and who are very straight, and they won't tolerate any nonsense. That sort of people, you see, that you find normally, and that sort of people become a headache, and they are very boring. You can't just bear their company. They can be very boring people. And they give you big lectures about how to be straightforward and how to walk straight, absolutely. In the nature, nothing is straight. It all moves so beautifully because the nature is created out of varieties. And variety brings the beauty. They don't think of beauty, they don't think of love or compassion, nothing. For them, it is a very meticulous world, and that's how they live. Such people are developing a big ego within themselves, as you see there, is the yellow stuff in the head called as ego. Let me show. By the action of the left side, emotional side, we develop a superego, but by the action of the right side, we develop an ego. Now this ego is not easy to be seen, because if you have a superego, you have pains in the body, you are a miserable person, you have wrinkles on the face, and you look absolutely worn out. But if you have ego, then you look so dynamic. The people who are superego are troublesome to themselves, but those are egoistical are troublesome to others. Both things are wrong to go to extremes on the right or to the left. Now let's see what happens physically. As I told about the cancer on the left hand side that we do. Physically, what happens to people who are futuristic? We have a center, especially for futuristic behavior, called as Swadhisthana Chakra, which is in the gross manifesting the plexus called the aortic plexus within us. Now when there's only one work is given to this Swadhisthana Chakra, and it cannot do any other work, then other things are neglected, so you develop a terrible disease called liver trouble. Now liver trouble is another thing that you do not. Now this liver has a special capacity to extract all the poisons from the body as heat. And the heat in the body is to be transformed or should be conveyed to the blood or the water in the blood, and that has to be taken out of your body, maybe as perspiration or in another forms. But what happens? That when this liver is out of gear, it cannot do it. It cannot pass this heat into the bloodstream, and the heat remains in the body, and you really become heated, and that heat makes all these problems for you. But one can cure it by giving it that peace and comfort to that liver organ, and you can definitely cure your liver, no doubt about it. Then the second thing that happens to you is the pancreas, which gives you diabetes. Only a person who thinks too much gets diabetes. For example, an Indian farmer doesn't know what diabetes is, but then you stop your sugar. But that's not the way to stop your diabetes. Diabetes comes to you because you think too much. The doctors won't understand this. That's why they say it is incurable. But because they cannot connect thinking with the disease. And this is what happens when you are all the time thinking like mad, then diabetes takes place. And this diabetes is also curable if you get cured. The third one is the worst of all that happens to people is blood cancer because of spleen. Spleen is one thing very important, that it is the center of peace within us. The one who doesn't have a proper spleen cannot be a peaceful person. Now, it's a very simple thing, but doctors cannot connect. Main thing is we have to make you doctors. We have to make you knowledgeable people. We have to make you collectively conscious human beings who have to enter into the kingdom of God to reside there in His peace, bliss and joy. Now this trouble of also of kidney, of high blood pressure, all that is due to this. People worry. Now the last and not the least is the trouble of the heart. When you pay too much attention to all these outward things, to material things, to your all material advancement, to your physical advancement, and to so much of computerization of your brain, then you neglect the necessary attention to your spirit, which resides in your heart. And so the spirit receives. And when the spirit receives, you get a heart attack. Only a person who is right-sided gets a heart attack, and never a person who is a left-sided. I told this to a doctor, and he told surprisingly that in a mental hospital, we never need a cardiogram. We do not need it. They never get a heart attack. A mad man never gets a heart attack. Surprisingly, a person who is mad is using his heart, his left side, his emotions, and his heart should go out. But no, his brain goes out. Can you imagine? And the one who uses the brain, his heart goes out. This is the balance created by nature in us. See how cleverly the nature is trying to guide us in the center. Don't go to the extremes. Keep to the center. Keep to the center. And then when you are absolutely in the center, then you get your evolution very quickly. Kind of plan. And you find all these plans fail because these plans are not related to the plans of the divine. Divine has some other plans, while you have some other plans. And they never combine together, and that's how you find all your plans fail, and you are just frustrated, left high and dry. You don't understand how it has happened. For your understanding, one has to know that there is a divine power. You may like it or not. All this living work that is done, millions and millions of flowers which are becoming fruits, a seed becoming a tree, a particular seed becomes a particular tree, all the choices that are made, the whole organized way, the chemical acts, the way the chemistry is made of periodic laws, everything you see in this world is all so well organized, there has to be somebody doing it. So there is a divine power which is surrounding us, no doubt about it. But we have not yet felt it. That's all. If you have not felt it, that doesn't mean anything. Because as long as they are attached to selfishness, to all these things, they are not going to do any good job out of it. Now, the detachment takes place because you become one with the spirit, which is not attached, which gives you that light, that detachment, from where you can see the whole thing just as a drama going on, and you work it out very well. You become so dynamic that you are amazed at your own dynamism. Apart from that, one has to realize if there is a power which is an all-pervading power, that power itself thinks, organizes, and looks after it. So many things have happened to such yogis. If I have to tell you all about it, you'll be amazed. Amazing things happen. I'm talking of collectivity, where every individual is aware. It's not a mass activity. It is collectivity. May God